Well, hi everyone and welcome back to Motorhome Adventures. This film is about exhaust sensors. I know, not a very fantastic subject, but it's definitely one which has been the bane of my life over the last few, months in fact, let alone weeks. So it all started with a engine management light coming up on the dashboard and stop start unavailable. Now, those of you who have seen some of the older films on the channel will know that we had exactly the same fault after only owning the van for a couple of 3 months back in 2021, and it was a DPF sensor that had gone faulty. Fiat at the time said it was a regular problem. I asked them whether it should have been a recall issue, but they said they basically sell the vans new and wait for it to conk out, which sure enough was in about 2 or 3 months on that occasion. Anyway, fast forward to now, we're in 2025 and the problem started in December 2024 when I had yet again a good old engine management light and start stop unavailable. So that's where the saga began. And initially, when we looked at the fault codes, it was describing a fault with a NOx sensor, which of course was a different one to the DPF sensor back in 2021. So anyway, here's a skate through some of the issues that subsequently then occurred with those respective sensors on the exhaust system. And it was most definitely a bit of a pain in the backside. So popped up to our local garage at Rumbleways in New Hedges near Tenby, and they are not a garage that deals with the replacement of these sensors. They're problematic to do. They often get stuck in position. So my local garage man, Ricky, bless him, would prefer not to have done the job, but I'll come back to Rumbleways because he ended up saving the day as always. And recommended obviously that I thought first and foremost I'll try the Fiat dealer over at Cardigan. So I gave them a ring armed with the need for the van. It needed the NOx sensors doing, and there were 2 sensor faults coming up. One was there are a couple of sensors, one behind the catalytic converter, one in front of it. Both of them were showing as responsible for the fault code on this occasion, and therefore I rang Fiat and said, if you were to replace the 2 sensors for me that have come up on the code, how much would you want? Well, I then dropped the phone because I was flat on my back, having fallen off the chair, because they wanted 1,365 quid, 1,365 quid, to source and to fit these 2 filters. Needless to say, I thanked them for their input and went in search of alternative, less costly route to do the job. First and foremost, of course, was good old Google, good old online. Saw a guy on YouTube replacing one of his NOx sensors, having rolled under his van. Thought, well, there's got to be another way round 1,365 quid. And even the value of the parts were, of course, dealership prices. So it was a matter of going in search of the parts and then considering whether I was going to do the job myself, or again, call on, having got the parts, call on Ricky at Rumbleways to give me a hand to get them fitted. So that takes us to the next chapter. We've come to Rumbleways again. Look, it's a fresh old morning. It's like probably about -1 this morning. We're first in. It's about 8:10 in the morning, just up the road, which is dead handy because Ricky here, who owns Rumbleways, is absolutely outstanding and looks after the cars and the van. Absolutely first class job on them all. But we've brought with us the 2 sensors which culminated in that saga that you've already heard about. There's the one. The sensors are the NOx sensors that go in front and behind the cat converter underneath the van, and I'll show you that once we get a chance to get in the workshop there and get it up on the ramp, and I'll show you where they fit. So that's the one. Both of these I got from that supplier on eBay, but they're both genuine parts, obviously. And here's the second one. So it's got obviously the gadgetry and stuff there that just really plugs in one for one. It's one out, one in. What I've seen online, as some of you guys may have done as well, is that the nut that holds this into the exhaust can sometimes get really stiff to remove. So that's one thing which I've put some easing spray on it before we come to the garage here, to see if I could help that process. So fingers crossed on that they don't need any serious work to get the old ones out. But apparently, and having of course watched on the wonderful resource that is YouTube and seen somebody else change one of these sensors, it was simply a case of unbolting one and bolting the other, which he did from under his own motorhome. Took about 20 minutes, but we need to change both. And in terms of the then recalibrating and making sure it's all plugged in, and then the part is personalized to the van, for want of a better description. I'll think of the proper word in a minute because it's still 8 o'clock in the morning. But to get the part paired with the van, I think would be the best way to describe it. Ricky's obviously got the kit to do that, the OBD stuff, which I haven't got. So that was another reason for coming up the road, that at some stage, even if I could have got the old ones off and the new ones on, then they'd need just linking up with the van itself and to the ECU that looks after these parts. So we're nearly at the end of the saga. We're still getting the if I can replicate those warning thing again, if I just turn the ignition on, there you go, start stop unavailable it says, and the engine management light came on. So I've run with it like that. It's not obviously gone into limp mode, it's not done anything like that. So if you do get it, don't worry too much about it, because obviously if it was a serious fault, then it would put the van into limp mode. You can see I've only got 27,000 miles on, so it's very annoying that these things go. But now that I've got into all the various Moho forums and and a lot of stuff online about these sensors, it is just a very common problem with Fiat Ducatos. There are obviously a number of fixes, but as you heard from some of the crazy prices I was quoted, over 1,300 quid to supply and fit was the record from a Fiat dealership. Then albeit it's a common thing, it can be a damned expensive thing as well. And as you can see by the I've put the details of these parts up on the screen, the ones I got from eBay, but I'm sure there's probably some of you out there that might have had a much cheaper way around this. If of course you have, then do put information about it in the comments, because I think the more we can do to help the good old Ducato motorhome campervan world around these relatively common issues, then the better. So if you know cheaper and better ways of doing it that would still allow it to get through its MOT, then do let us know, or do let the viewers know and myself know for a future reference, as it were. But anyway, let's let Ricky do his thing, and then once it's on the ramp, I'll see if I can show you directly where we were talking about. So here we are up on the ramp. It's as I feared, it had been a bit of an arse of a job. So what we've done with this one that's to the rear of the cap, this is obviously the diesel particulate filter, and then sitting behind it is this one, which is the NOx sensor itself. The other one that I bought was the lambda sensor, which is up at the top of the engine. But we're going to start off, we're going to replace this one because a lot of the fault codes were pointing at this. So Ricky's now done this one, but the problem was, of course, as we anticipated, it was an arse, excuse my language, to get out. which stripped some of the thread. Ricky's had to re-tap it, and I'll give you the details of the tap that he used to get that done as well, which might be of use if you're attempting it yourself. And there you can see the blue cable coming into this piece here, and if we just pop round the other side, you can see in there, just in there, that's where obviously, and there's the new plug just hiding up under that heat shield. But obviously when it budged slightly, but then just wouldn't come out, and therefore had to be forced out, which obviously damaged some of the threads. So fortunately it did re-tap okay, and this one's gone in fine. We've stuck the engine back on, plugged the OBD sensor back in, and it's cleared the NOx fault. And Ricky's added some ceramic paste to that, which hopefully will prevent future problems of it coming back out again. Fingers crossed though, we never get such problems. To obviously make it easier to work on this as well, he also loosened off these bolts here, which help the exhaust system just to drop down a bit. Loosened off these as well up here and over this side, so that allowed all of this assembly then just to drop down slightly by sort of 200 or 300 mil, and that enabled him to work on this and get it re-tapped so that the new one would fit in. So anyway, it's fantastic that that he's been successful in clearing that code, but they have been the bane of my life, some of these sensors. And looking at a lot of the forums and the Fiat forums and the Motorhome forums, it looks like these sensors are the bane of many people's lives. And in fact, Ricky was saying, as somebody who's worked and owns this garage and worked on many of them, that it's about the only thing that ever goes wrong with Fiat Ducatos, the engine, and that, you know, are pretty damn bulletproof, as we know. And this one has been no exception. It's been fantastic. It's just this weird and wonderful sensor electronics that just seem to cause havoc. I'm sure there's somebody in Fiat sitting there on commission with all these crazily priced parts that they sell. Obviously we got them a bit cheaper off eBay, and they are still genuine parts, but some of the prices that we were quoted, as I've said already, were just ridiculous, just crazy. And in fact, Ricky was saying that did a Hyundai recently which had a DPF filter go, which is that one round the other side there. That's the one that we had go when it was still in warranty, that was replaced. But he had a Hyundai one in the other day, and that was about 800 quid for the sensor from Hyundai. It's just absolutely nuts that these things are costing so much. They probably, I suspect they probably only cost a tenner to make somewhere out east, and it just does seem a real issue that these sensors and electronics that work in and around the exhaust system, be it for ECU, be it for the airbag issue we had earlier with this, be it for this diesel particulate one that we had when it was in warranty, now the NOx sensor one. You know, engine has gone on for 27,000 miles now, absolutely without missing a beat. It's just these electronic gadgets. Wouldn't it be nice to be back in the 1970s when my Mark I Ford Escort, you just had to need about 2 or 3 spanners and you could do just about anything on the engine, even if you didn't know anything about them, which I didn't at that time. None of this, or none of these weird and wonderful electronic gadgets, but there we go, that's modern technology for you. Anyway, enough of my bleating about that. And incidentally, I've just checked with Ricky, the tap size that he used was an M22 times 1.5 mil to then re-tap that that receiver for the NOx sensor, if you're attempting to do it yourself and you have to re-tap the hole, as we had to today. back out again, ready for travel. So we've changed that NOx sensor at the back. So this was the old one, and the one that was coming up has failed, and here we go. Here is the offending item, and look at this thread completely stripped off it. Obviously the thing that it's, the exhaust system that it's going into is steel. This is some sort of alloy, I guess, which, and whether they put the ceramic paste on it, whether they've coated it before it went in, you know, to help it come back out again when that time came, then who knows. But it doesn't look like it, because it was a right arse to get out. Stripped the thread, that's why it needed retapping, but did retap successfully. So that one's done. So off the ramp, tested it, it cleared the faults. So basically the second one that we got that was also suggested as might be an issue ended up not being. So, and there again is the vagaries of sensors. It was suggested that this one was faulty or was showing a fault, but it wasn't. So I'm keeping this for another day. That's obviously right in front of the catalytic converter, but right up near the top of the engine. So that's coming in from the top as opposed to the bottom, if fingers crossed, we don't have to cross that bridge in the near future. So anyway, that's the saga of yet another sensor issue, or of the NOx sensor this time. And cost, well, it's taken Ricky 2 or 3 hours to get that all drilled out, sorted, retapped, refitted, calibrated, and therefore that's cost me about 150 quid in labour time, which again is very different to the 1300 plus quid I was quoted from Fiat. And in total, with just the one part added, which was the 200 plus one, 253, so it's turned out about 400 quid, I guess, to do the to get this one swapped over. So here we are. Yes, it's a Fiat Professional. We're getting it plugged in today, just to, so we cleared the NOx sensor code, and then lo and behold, another DPF code came up. We think there's a possibility that it may be one that is a known issue with an incorrect flagging of a code. So which Fiat did a recall on, I think in 23, something like that. But anyway, we are going to get plugged in at Fiat to see if it is something that's just a fault and shouldn't be flagged as a code. Then that will hopefully get resolved here today. But these sensors at the moment are the bane of my life. The NOx sensor obviously went back in very well. The new one, we've only put that single one in. We obviously didn't put the second one in. Keep that, no doubt, for the next time. But I'm hoping that today might potentially see us losing the codes completely. Right, we've been here for only an hour or so, so let's now see how we're getting on. I think we've been resolved. Well, I'll be, look at that. No warning codes, nothing coming up. So there we go. We are warning free. I wonder how long that will last. Hopefully, fingers crossed, for a long time. So so the new NOx sensor was not communicating with the rest of the components on the exhaust. So sure enough, with a full Fiat Professional plug-in, that was able to flash update the new NOx sensor. That then cleared the other code. They also did a flash upgrade on the software, which may have assisted with that other false code that we got as well. Suffice to say, all bits are programmed to each other as they should be. We have no fault codes at all, and long may that continue. The only downside was that to come to Fiat Professional and for them to plug it in costs 220 quid just to plug it in. So that's the only downside. But so I guess we've paid for a plug-in, for some software flash upgrades, for some time obviously, for an hour to sort it out. I suppose that's the modern world, but yeah, a bit painful when I was quoted 220 quid before I'd even left home just to plug it in at Fiat. But if I'm talking to you again in about 2 years and I still haven't had any more sensor codes, then I will be absolutely delighted, and of course it'll be money well spent. So cross all your fingers for me, and let's hope that that's the last we perhaps see of a sensor code or a sensor fault code coming up on the dash. Is this the last chapter in this horrendous few months of sensor grief? These little things are an absolute pain in the what's it. This one's arrived now. Fiat quoted me over 400 quid, so needless to say I paid 200 and something for this. I think it actually came from Germany. I'll try and put the details in the description below in case you're on the same saga as I am, messing around with sensors and trying to do it for less than the price of both kidneys in the process. So we're back at the fabulous Rumbleways garage in New Hedges, just up the road from me, where Ricky and the team always seem to save the day, as they did when they fitted that last one and had to retap the thread and everything and got that one in, and that's working. But as we saw, no sooner had we checked, or sooner as we programmed it to the van at Fiat, then the next one came up. So I really, yes, as you can imagine, the air was a bit blue when it cleared for about 3/4 of an hour, and then the next one came up, which is this one. If it wasn't for these sensors, we've had absolutely faultless mileage for 27,500 miles. It's just these damn sensors. But anyway, I'm hoping this is the last part of this film and that we have no codes. So look, no warnings. God, we haven't seen that for a long time. I mean, as I say, it never put me into limp mode or anything like that, but it's just, you know, one of those things that nags away. And if one sensor's not working right, then is it going to affect the other one? And well, in this case it obviously did, because we had to do two in the end. So fantastic, Ricky at Rumbleways. Yeah, I'm very glad I brought it up here. I was very tempted to try and get it out by sliding underneath on my drive and taking it out, because I was told this one would probably be easier. But needless to say, this one was stuck solid as well. So had to fortunately Ricky's obviously got the tools here to get the plug out, but it obviously strips the threads, needs retapping to get the new one in. But as I say, because he had the tools then and he's used to it, then he's managed to turn that around pretty swiftly, to be fair. And this is the old one, and this one, would you believe, was the one, remember way back when, in 2021, when we had a bit of warranty work done just after we got the van, about 3 months after, and that was the same. It was exactly the same part. It's clearly the parts are either the software in them, it's something in them, but the stories I'm now heard of since I started my sensor escapade makes your hair curl, even mine, and I haven't got any, about how many of these are coming into places like Ricky's at Rumbleways. Land Rover have got a big issue with them apparently at the moment. I was just hearing where faults on the AdBlue sensors and the exhaust sensors have actually caused a couple of engines to blow on Range Rovers and Range Rover Sports. So I'm probably glad that it's only caused a fault code or to come up on the dash with mine. But yeah, they've been an absolute nightmare, but thanks to one visit to Fiat, which obviously fitted one but didn't get the other, didn't get it working, Ricky's now saved the day. and we've got a fault-free van at the moment ready for our 2025 travels. So Italy, Greece, Italy, Greece, Croatia, here we come very soon. And by all means, let me know in the comments if you've had similar issues with sensors, Fiat sensors obviously specifically, but it'd be interesting to know whether you too, in their first, what is only 3.5 years of ownership of this, whether you've also had similar sensor issues and sensor faults. We'd love to hear from you. So there you have it, the dreaded sensor debacle. It seems to have been going on for weeks, for months, and I so hope that this is the last. Well, it certainly won't be the last, will it? But I hope it's the last for a fairly long time. Perhaps another 3 or 4 years would be really nice. If Fiat perhaps could produce some parts that were up to the job, then we may not have to go back so often to get these issues resolved. So anyway, I hope that might have been enlightening for some of you that perhaps have got the very same fault come up on your dash. If you're a Ducato owner, of course, then it's probably only a matter of time before you get one of these faults. The plus side was that it never put us into limp mode. It never caused a problem with the driving of the van. But by crikey, we did a bit of to and froing, and I suppose if there's anything out of it, it's search high and low for the parts, because wow, there is some variation in prices. And of course, if you went to Fiat, then that's a whole new ball game of cost. But have a good hunt round. I'll put some links in the description below as to the sources I used to save probably a few £100. And my thanks, of course, to Ricky and the team at Rumbleways Garage up at New Hedges near us in Tenby for being as amazing as ever and helping us get those new ones fitted, because they were difficult as well. Thanks, of course, to you guys for watching. Love to hear some of your comments, and of course any other ways around it you can find or you can advise us on for the Ducato community and those watching the film here. If there's a way to resolve this, then do let us know if it costs a lot less than I've been paying. Thanks ever so much for watching, and we will see you again very soon. Cheers guys, bye now.